starting with background details. The digital event I attended was a digital photography exhibit um, with a bunch of photos by Sebastio Salgado on artsy.net. And this is a website where they hold a lot of digital art exhibits from a variety of professional artists. Um, Similar to in-person art galleries, you have a limited amount of time to view their art before they go away. Similar to um, artists who hold like booths and stuff. And it wasn't the first time I visited a visual art gallery in general. As I mentioned in the last on-off campus assignment, I had an old neighbor who created acrylic paintings and sold them at in-person art galleries, and we became well acquainted with her before she moved away to the East Coast, and I had the opportunity to walk around and view different types of art in one of the in-person art exhibits that she held a booth at. I saw lots of paintings, sculptures, pottery, decorations, and photography, like the one I saw at this digital art exhibit. Cultural awareness. Artists, they usually primarily focus on they focus their different art pieces around like one specific genre, whether that be nature, people, or emotion. But photography can be a little different, as time it takes to snap a photo is far less than the time it takes to create a masterpiece on a canvas. And because of this, it's a lot easier with a camera to swap from genre to genre. And as a result, upon looking at his photos, I kind of expected the photos to differ in some way, shape, or form when it comes to the genre, as it's easy to switch between different ones. But looking at his pictures, my expectations were mostly met, as I noticed his work containing primarily two different genres, consisting from social documentary photography and environmental landscape photography. And in his photography, including social documentation, he often took photos of workers and migrators with the focus of being on people facing hardship and injustice. And his second genre was environmental photos, focusing on nature and scenes of the wilderness, highlighting the beauty of nature and the importance of preserving the environment, as well as indigenous people. As for my thoughts on his work, I think the photos he took were really great. They're important representations of those facing hardship, and his work fosters a lot of empathy for workers, migrants, indigenous people, and all that face physical and economic suffering in the world. His work could definitely be interpreted as a call of action, along with, again, I mentioned an infuser of empathy. It might motivate a viewer to do something, like donate to an organization that helps the poor, or a small act, or even small acts of kindness, as they also mean a lot in the eyes of God. Artistic practice in his photos are next, and upon some very brief research, he used a variety of different cameras with I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but Leica SLRs and Canon digital cameras, being just a couple of them. The most notable characteristic of his work is that all his photos are taken in black and white, and he did this to emphasize emotional content rather than the color of the photo. And for the black and white, he uses Kodak Tri-X 400 black and white film. And And he finishes by printing his photos using silver gelatin prints, which provide tonal range in his photos. Talking about the formal elements of design as they do appear in photography, similar to paintings. Shape and form are clearly visible, as his photos are of three-dimensional figures, of course adding immediate depth to his work. Texture can be seen in the rough landscape of his nature photos, as well as the rough surfaces of working conditions in the photographs of working individuals. Pattern can be seen in photographs of nature, as mountains can be seen stacked like right behind each other with a river running between them, which adds depth and range into the image. The most prominent element is tone. That's linked to the most noticeable characteristic of his work, which is the black and whiteness of his photos, which again emphasize emotion and hardship rather than focusing on the color alone. In his photographs, they say a lot about who he is and what he values. He shows a great commitment to social justice and environmental issues, trying to highlight and shine light on these issues through his talent of taking pictures and photography. And then again, focusing on his second genre, he emphasizes the beauty of nature and a need for environmental conservation through his photographs. The practice of empathy is next. I primarily see myself within the nature aspect of Sebastio's photography, as I also have a deep appreciation for nature and God's creation. And some of my favorite places to admire nature are like sunsets on a beach, or being in one of my favorite places on earth, which is Haines, Oregon. I have family that live there, and if you're standing out there in Eastern Oregon, you have a really good view of the Blue Mountains to the east. It really takes your breath away. Let's see. And one thing I wanted to add was that I see a lot of the fifth beatitude within Sebastio's work. And the fifth beatitude says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy." And he photographs the marginalized to shine light on their suffering, rather than leaving them in the dark. And he takes these photos to spread awareness about the reality of some people's situations in the world, which a lot of people might be really oblivious to. Lastly is cultural worldview, and I think Sebastio Salgado's photography, his work reflects a visible worldview that highlights specifically the dignity of the human person, as well as social justice and environmental awareness. He focuses on the sufferings and struggles of people living in different areas with difficult living conditions, and he puts a spotlight on the resilience. And his detailed photographs of nature and mountain landscapes show a great abbreviation and value for nature and the environment. As for culture, his work reflects his own Latin American culture, as his photos also resemble the challenges his culture deals with in Brazil. And the environmental and social issues highlighted in his photography can also be compared to some issues that we've dealt with in the United States in the past, such as the Great Depression or the Civil Rights Movement. And then an appreciation for nature is something that can be connected across all cultures, as having nature and a green and healthy environment is crucial for humanity's survival. And to finish this video off, his work had a significant impact on, modern photography, and he also encourages other photographers to possess empathy and be socially and environmentally conscious throughout their work. And lastly, just to finish off, here's some of his work. Notice how they're all black and white. Some of them are of nature scenes of the desert, and there's sky and like a river below. And then there's photographs of people